Good morning. Good morning. If I could have folks find their seats, take a seat. My name is Ray Bullock with the Monterey County Health Department, and my job this morning is to welcome everybody to the regional meeting for early childhood development here in Seaside, which actually is a regional discussion for all of the communities along the peninsula. So first, I want to extend a hearty thank you. It's very gratifying to see so many people show up so early in the morning, fighting the traffic, coming over to this horrible area on the peninsula. And what? Oh, Wendy made it. Okay, is Jane still on her way? Oh, she's still in traffic. Okay. And then I will apologize on behalf of both myself and Supervisor Parker because today is Tuesday, so the schedulers forgot that Tuesdays were board days. So I know she has to leave early for a meeting that starts at 9. I have to leave early so that I can be there at about 9:10. But we trust that everybody will have a great discussion on early childhood development. So I promised the planners that I would try my best to get everybody on time and limit my 12-minute remarks down to 2 minutes so that we won't lose time. So I will cut out the point of talking about myself and go directly to what it is that you're here for. And early childhood development has been a topic of discussion. We were extremely pleased that President Obama has even made this part of a national initiative. And a couple of years ago, we were very, very fortunate to have Professor Heckman here. He's a Nobel laureate and in economy. And so people ask, well, what does an economist know about early childhood development? And it was a very poignant talk about how investing our resources in early childhood development has a much more significant return on investment than if we wait until somebody's in juvenile hall, or if we wait until truancy is a problem, or if we wait until somebody has dropped out. We need to start putting our investments upstream where it has a huge return on investment. So that has really been the impetus for a lot of the discussions locally. And again, I'm very pleased to say that our Board of Supervisors has made this a cornerstone of the strategic plan for the county. Early childhood development is now one of the strategic initiatives county-wide. And some people ask, well, what is health doing? And I just share this, health doing as kind of a facilitator of this initiative. And 4 years ago, in our annual meeting for the Health Executives Association of California, Dr. Fielding, who some of you might know, who's the health officer down in Los Angeles County, was asked what he believed the #1 public health problem was in Los Angeles County. Without a second's pause, he said literacy. And we were all kind of taken back here. We were thinking access to care, more clinics, we've got to get HIV under control, literacy. And so then he went on to talk about the investments to keep people. It improves your economic opportunities, it improves your educational opportunities. And so he basically started a discussion even amongst health directors. So I just share that because it helps, I think, for some people to understand why it is that we feel very strongly and we're very comfortable facilitating this discussion throughout the community. I do want to recognize that this effort has not only had the support of the Board of Supervisors who have committed general fund dollars to facilitate this. Lucille Packard has put in funds for this. Is it the David and Lucille Packard and which foundation? Community Foundation. So again, it's receiving broad support. Not to say that we won't be needing and coming to others and asking for continued support, but what we're here for today is to start engaging communities on a model that's known as collective impact. And you're going to be hearing a significant amount about what collective impact is, and I'll just steal one of Dr. Moreno's lines. We're not interested in bringing a canned program or a new curriculum out to the community and say, we want you to buy into this program. This is a ground-up, community-based strategy that hopefully people will all become zealous about early childhood development and ask, what is it that I can do to move a specific indicator? So you're going to hear a lot about that. And I guess my closing comment as part of the introductions is we're hopeful that as a result of these 4 regional discussions that there will be at least a couple, maybe more, hopefully maybe 4 communities that will all rise up and say, we want to get behind this strategy. We believe we can incorporate business, schools, industry, health, all of the important faith-based community, all of those folks into a strategy that we can reinforce early childhood development. So with that, I've been asked, you're going to be doing more specific introductions at your table, but what I've been asked to do is we want to get a representation of who's in the room. So I've been given some categories, and please feel free to stand more than once as I go through this list of categories. We'd like to just know who's here, and you're going to be asked repeatedly throughout the day who else needs to be at the table to make this a successful strategy. So let's start by asking for those people who are members of the Children's Council for Monterey County, if they could stand to their feet. Okay, we have a number of representatives. Okay, if those people who are early childhood educators could stand to their feet. Excellent, excellent. If we could have education K through 3 stand to their feet. Okay, all right, excellent, thank you. Service clubs and groups, Rotarians, Lions, this is your opportunity to be seen and collect fines. I'll take the fines after this. Okay. Those people who are members of nonprofit CBOs, community-based organizations, nonprofits. Excellent. Yes, thank you. Those persons that are, oh, how timely is this one? Local government, and as I see Jane Parker walk through the door. Excellent. Thank you. We'd like parents and parent groups, and I stand on this one. I'm a parent. Yes, excellent, thank you. Faith-based organizations. Yes, okay, so we have businesses here on the peninsula. Okay, I think you see one area that we've got some work to do. And anybody else that was not named above but has an interest in early childhood development? Well, let's everybody stand on that one. So I guess I blew that. I said not named above. That's it. I'm sorry, that was supposed to be the crescendo with everybody standing, but I said not named before. So with that, I didn't get you back on time, but I got you close. I'm going to turn the mic over to Dr. Ed Moreno, who is our health officer for Monterey County, and is a recent addition to our team, but we're extremely gratified also that he has done a lot of work in the area. Did I do that? The light? No. Okay. So with no further ado, I will let Ed take the mic.
All right, thanks, Ray.
Thanks.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. I really appreciate Ray getting us started this morning, and welcome to all of you. I'm Ed Moreno, Dr. Moreno. I'm the health officer for Monterey County. I've been here 6 months, and one of the things that I've really enjoyed since I've been here is to co-chair the Early Childhood Development Initiative. One of the things I want to share with you today, this morning before I get started, is what we hopefully will cover while we're here in the couple hours we have. What we want to do today is continue to share with you and have some discussion around the importance of early childhood education and development. We also want to share with you some principles about collective impact, which is a strategy or approach that the Early Childhood Development Initiative is very interested in promoting in our communities here. We also want to demonstrate how Early Childhood Development Initiative, how we at ECDI are looking to use the Early Childhood Development Initiative to to address some of the complex issues surrounding early childhood development and future success of our kids. And we will have some time to talk about how how early childhood development education is important to us personally, but also how it relates to what we do in the organizations and the communities that we represent. So the Early Childhood Development Initiative is an initiative of the Monterey County Children's Council. And the council was created by the Board of Supervisors. It's intended to decrease duplicity of services and coordinate services for children in Monterey County. And there are about 25 organizations represented on the Children's Council. And what's great about the Children's Council is it's really a diverse group of organizations. It's not just people interested in children's, other people working with children. It's organizations that have an interest in promoting and encouraging development of children. The vision of the Children's Council is that all children are healthy, valued, successful in school, and realizing their full potential. And that is the same vision that we have with the Early Childhood Development Initiative. In your packets, in your blue folders today, in your folders today, you have a handout. It's a two-sided with charts and graphs and diagrams. This is one of the diagrams on there, and the reason we are sharing this with you today is because we really want to point out that, as many of you know, our brains develop quickly in the first few years of life, and most of a child's brain develops in the first 3 years of life, and by age 5, 85% of brain development has already occurred. And so, why is that important? Well, we think it's important because in the context of where are we as a community investing our resources. If we really want to have our children develop to the full potential, where should we be putting our resources in? So we've looked at this, and approximately 14% of our public education dollars and resources are put into early childhood education at the time when the brain development is the brain is developing fastest. So we think this is important reminder for us to consider whether or not we need to put more resources and investment into early childhood education and development. There is a lot of research out there that points out what happens if you do put money into early child development. If you invest in those first 3 years, what are the benefits? A lot of people are bottom line people. They look at what is the benefit, or what is the return on investment. And one of the, this is also on your handout, some of the research really shows that for every dollar that we invest in these early years, we get about $7 in return on investment. And so for those people who want to see what's the return on investment, this is what we're sharing with them. Go ahead, next. But what does that mean in terms of what you can really see in the community? What does those return on investment really mean? Well, there is also a lot of research that shows that investing in early childhood development yields positive outcomes and reduces the likelihood of negative outcomes in our community for our children. So this one diagram here summarizes quite a bit of the research that's been done to show this. Investing in early childhood development and education will increase kindergarten readiness among our children in our communities. Kids are more ready to start kindergarten and succeed in kindergarten. This leads to increased school attendance and also improved school performance, which the schools and our school districts are very concerned about. and our parents are very interested in. As the child continues to succeed, we hope to see greater high school graduation rates. And again, this is based on research. Investment in early childhood education does improve the likelihood that kids are going to graduate from high school. And why is this important to our long-term future and economy? Because we get more kids graduating from high school who have training, experience, and skills to meet the labor force demands that our employers have or requiring or asking of our communities. So our businesses want to hire our kids, and they want to know that if they invest in the community and bring their businesses here, will we be able to provide in Monterey County, throughout Monterey County, a workforce that can meet the demand and their needs. And yes, you're going to increase the likelihood that our kids will grow up and be able to serve the needs of the businesses, which increases not just the economy, but it leads to increased household income. And for me in public health, this is important because there's other research that shows that as a family's household income goes up, their overall health increases. Their life expectancy also increases. And so investing, taking this way back upstream, as Ray said, investing in early childhood education and development leads to significant improvement in outcomes later on. We do have to look at this from the negative perspective because some of the studies are done this way. And so that's the red bar on the bottom. So I've been talking very positively about what are the benefits of our investments. But there are those that are in our community, like law enforcement and probation and school districts to some degree, who are coping with some of the kids who, the impact of kids who are not successful. Kids who are committing violent crimes in high school as youth or as adults. We also know that the studies show that kids who go to preschool are 75% less likely to commit a violent crime as an adult. So I've just shared with you some of the data that we have. There's more data, but we in Early Childhood Development Initiative have really tried to focus on these because I think these are compelling enough to encourage all of us to continue to consider and work together to find ways to invest and develop new strategies to work with our children to achieve better outcomes. We've also, based on the research, we've done some preliminary work in looking at what are some of the indicators that our communities, all of us here, could consider tracking. Meaning if we decide to work together, each in our organizations and individually and as organizations, to try to improve the early childhood experiences for our kids, how will we know if we are heading in the right direction? And that's what these are. These are 6 indicators of many, but these are 6 that we feel we want to present to you to consider adopting and trying to move in the positive direction. The first one is 3rd grade reading level. We picked this one, we picked all of these because in almost all the communities here in Monterey County, we have data on this. We already have the data, and we will continue to collect the data. So we have the data available. And each of these indicators is based on research. So 3rd grade reading level. We picked that one also because kids who are reading at 3rd grade, in 3rd grade at grade level, will be able to move on to the 4th grade and learn, understand the material, the curriculum, and advance and succeed. Kids who are not reading at grade level at 3rd grade, when they enter 4th grade, they're still trying to figure out how to read. And they're getting behind because they can't keep up with the curriculum because they're spending so much of their time still trying to figure out how to read. So 3rd grade reading levels are important. I mentioned we have local data. So how are we doing in Monterey County? County-wide, 33% of our 3rd grade children are reading at 3rd grade level, which means a third of our kids are moving on to 4th grade ready to take in the curriculum. 2/3 of our kids are not. And they're going to spend some time in 4th grade and even beyond still trying to figure out how to read while the rest of the class is moving forward with the curriculum. We have 5 more reading to children. So how are we doing in Monterey County? Only about half of the parents with children entering kindergarten are reading to their, or showing picture books on a daily basis. about a quarter of our kids are socially, emotionally ready for kindergarten. So the other three-quarters of the kids are not socially or emotionally ready. They may be bright kids, maybe smart kids, but they're struggling. They're having a difficult time socially or emotionally in kindergarten. As far as licensed childcare, it's available to only 20% of children and 5% of infants of parents who are working. These are working parents trying to bring home some money to help their families who are having a hard time finding a place for their children, their young children, to stay while they work. Our maternal, and so the first four are really focused on the kids, on the young children. But there's evidence that shows that there's benefits that we can achieve if we also focus on the parents. So focusing on the parents, we can actually achieve better outcomes for the kids. So one of them is maternal educational level. So studies looked at whether or not a father or a mother's educational level has an impact on the likelihood of a child succeeding in life. And not so much there for the dad, although we try to take a lot of credit for it. It's really the mother. So if the mother has a higher educational level, the children of the mother are going to have a greater likelihood of succeeding in school and succeeding in life. About 38% of our mothers in Monterey County have less than a high school education. And the last one is prenatal care. So I'm a pediatrician, I'm a doctor, I also work in public health, so I appreciate this from several perspectives. Prenatal care is important for the mother, for health reasons, for birth outcomes, and for the immediate health of the baby after birth. Okay? But evidence also shows that when a mother has early prenatal care, her child is also likely to have better success. Not health, not just the health benefits, but the educational benefits and doing well. But only 27% of our mothers about 27% of our mothers in Monterey County receive late or no prenatal care. So the children of these mothers are already starting off life with the odds against them. So this is where we're at right now in Monterey County. And in my opinion, we could do a lot better. Okay, not a little bit better, I think we do a lot better. Everyone in here is doing good work. Everyone, I think, in here agrees that we can improve, and you're working very hard every day to try to improve outcomes for our children and our families. But what we're here today to share with you is an opportunity to work together in a slightly different way to improve these outcomes in ways that we haven't worked together before. My job was to to share with you the importance of early childhood development. That's what I tried to do just right now. Before we move on to the next section, which will be someone presenting about the collective impact approach, which is, again, it's the strategy, not a program, but a strategy to try to work together to improve these outcomes. I want to invite you guys to take a few minutes and do a little exercise here, not the physical type of stand-up and stuff, but a mental exercise where I'm going to ask each of us to pair up with someone next to you, introduce yourselves to each other, and then take a few minutes to share your own childhood experience, one of your childhood experiences, and how that impacted you as an adult. In a positive way, in a negative way, just it had an impact on you. Okay? And if you can, try to relate it to these indicators. So we've been to three communities already, and we've heard some really good examples, people sharing their childhood experiences related to childcare or not having access to childcare, or being a bright student, but emotionally just not ready for kindergarten and really struggling through kindergarten. So think about, we'll take a few minutes, 6 minutes to do this. So it's all right, pairing up in two, so you got 3 minutes. Unless you like to talk a lot, you got enough time. All right, go to it. All right, guys. So thank you for taking the time to do this exercise. I've really enjoyed some of the stories that we've heard. So I'm going to we'll take another couple minutes just to hear from two volunteers who want to share their childhood experience, their own personal experience, and how it impacted them as adults. So we have a volunteer over here. Go ahead.
I'm Elizabeth Olney. I work at Parents Place, and spoke to Bill and Jamie here. What we found is that because of what our mothers did for us as we were younger, reading to us, having good prenatal care, we're sitting here today. We feel so fortunate because of that, and so we want to be able to share that out. So.
Thank you. And one more volunteer. How about someone close to me so they can use the mic?
Use your mic.
Okay, you've been volunteered. Come on.
Here, I'll bail you out, Ed.
Thank you, Joe.
So, my name is Joe Ferroti. I'm a new employee at Monterey County and a management analyst. This is day 2 on the job. And it's interesting, as I was going through these facts here, I realized how they related to me personally. I grew up in poverty. I lived in a tent and in a car for quite a while. And I realized my mother read to me a lot. Ever since, well, probably since the day we were born, reading was very important to her, for her to provide to us. And education was very important to me. And we realized that even though we didn't have maybe the right or appropriate clothes sometimes, for school and other things, we had the intellectual and social capacity to hang with the others. I think due to that early education, I was able to get my BA in mathematics, my MBA from UCSD, and I don't think without those first 5, any of that would have been possible. So I think that's kind of a success story directly related to the events.
All right, thanks, Joe. All right, so my time is up, and from this point on, the next section of our morning agenda is to talk about collective impact. I mentioned a strategy, not a program. It's an approach, and I'm going to hand it over. So thank you very much.
Hi everybody, my name is Ashley Powers-Clark, and I'm the coordinator of community school partnerships and a positive school climate for the Monterey County Office of Education. And I was told to let everyone know, first and foremost, the bathrooms are right down this hallway. That wasn't part of the presentation. So we've all gathered here today, and Dr. Moreno did a fantastic job of explaining the importance of early childhood. Probably a lot of us already kind of feel the importance of early childhood, or else we wouldn't have shown up here this morning, correct? That's why we're all here. So the big question that we're probably all asking ourselves is, okay, we showed up, we're here, now what do we do? So I'm going to walk through an approach that we're using with the Early Childhood Development Initiative called Collective Impact that will hopefully shine some light on some of the changes in thinking and the changes of the ways we work together that will help bring greater outcomes for our youngest children. So in order to do that, I want to talk a little bit first about why is it that the interventions that we have in the social sector tend not to produce the outcomes that we'd like to see for our youngest children? So in order to understand that, the first thing we need to do is think about how is it that we see problems, all right? How do we think about problems in the social sector? Because if we want to think about solutions, we first have to consider how is it that we conceptualize, or how is it that we understand the problem? So in the social sector, we have 2 different ways that we tend to see problems. One is very simple, like baking a cake, right? So we say, okay, if we put all of the ingredients in the cake together in the right order, we put the temperature on the oven the right way, and we put the cake in the oven, most of the time, you get a cake, right? Or we have a tendency to treat problems as very complicated, such as like sending a rocket to the moon. So when we send a rocket to the moon, it's a pretty complicated problem, but if you put all the pieces together in the right order, right, you put all the levers, everything comes together in the right order, you still have the laws of physics to guide you, right? So if you put all the pieces together, it's a very complicated problem, but if you do it in just the right order, just the right time, the rocket will fly pretty much every time. That's true, right? So how many of you have children? Raise your hand if you have children. Yeah. Raise your hand if you have experience raising children or just hanging around children. Yeah. Most people do. Now we know if you have children, if you do the same thing for one child and then do the exact same thing for the other child, does it produce the same outcome? No. Can someone give me one reason why don't we get the same outcome if we do the exact same thing for this child or the exact same thing for the other child? Why doesn't it work that way? Temperament. Yeah, kids are different, right? Every child is different and unique. So if you do this one thing for one child, it's not going to produce the same outcome for another. What's another reason why we can't do the exact same thing for every child?
Perception.
What's that?
The children have different perceptions of their world.
Exactly. Children, humans, we're complex creatures, right? Each of us is unique as individuals. The context in which kids are growing up is constantly changing. So in the social sector, when we have these complex challenges, we find that we're just not really good at figuring out how to tackle these problems. So collective impact is an approach to solving social problems that helps us sort of shift our way of thinking and shift our way of collectively working together to help us tackle some of the toughest complex social issues we have, such as raising children. So one of the reasons why, if we look at this sort of isolated or traditional approach to problem solving, the way it usually works is we have, a lot of individual organizations or a lot of individual grantees kind of working separately, right, on each of their separate projects, on separate timelines. We have a tendency to evaluate our impact in isolation as well, right? For those of you that work in a social sector, on your grant report, you're constantly saying, oh, well, my program produced X outcome, or this program produced that outcome. We're not rewarded for saying, hey, we all did this together, and all of us working together helped to produce this outcome. We tend to look at change by scaling up things that work. So we say, okay, well, this program worked over here. So if we scale it up and bring it to all of these other kids in this neighborhood, then we think we're going to produce the same outcome. And that tends to not work either. And additionally, we see corporations and government really separate from our nonprofit foundations, right? Really separate, not necessarily working together on the same agenda. So collective impact, what it does is it really takes our mind shift and tries to get us to think about these problems and work together in new ways that emphasize collective action, coordination, and cooperation across sectors. And the way that we would do that is by picking a goal, picking measurements around that goal, and coordinating actions to help achieve that goal. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of what are some of the basic principles of this collective impact approach. And as we move forward with the Early Childhood Development Initiative, we're going to lay out these 5 principles and you're like, yeah, this is great, we'll do it, it's easy. Not so much. But I'm going to kind of go through some of the basic principles of collective impact so that we can all start to get that common understanding of what the process looks like. And we'll start to dig a little bit deeper into what would it really look like if we shifted our way of doing business towards this collective action and collective mindset. So the first element of collective impact is a common agenda. Now what does that mean? So a common agenda means that all of us together in this room we agree upon one goal, right? And that's a very, very specific goal. So if we said we want every single kid in Seaside to be reading on grade level by 3rd grade, well, we might not get there next year or the year after that, but we might say, okay, in the first 3 years, we're going to set a bold goal, and we're going to say all of us working together, we're going to increase 3rd grade reading proficiency by 10%. Because we agree that is, whether we work in health, education, the business community, government, we agree that that's the most important thing for our kids. Now, how will we know when we're making progress towards that goal? Well, we would develop a shared measurement system, right? So all of our different activities we're doing, if you're reading to children, if you're doing a tutoring program, we'd all end up using a shared measurement system and looking at data to judge whether or not what we're doing is working for each and every individual kid. We'd engage in mutually reinforcing activities. So what does that mean, mutually reinforcing activities? Well, it means everything that we do would relate to that goal that we set out. So it would be if you were running a tutoring program at a school, then maybe your Rotary Club would donate books to all the kids in the neighborhood or something like that. So different activities that are all pointed towards the same goal. We'd have continuous communication, and we would all trust each other. So those are two really kind of difficult things to accomplish. And lastly, we would also have backbone support. So we're going to get into the sort of nitty-gritty of what that backbone support looks like. But that means you basically have a group of people that are working together to help kind of glue the pieces together, working in the background to move the initiative forward based on the agenda and goals that are set out by us collectively. So in order to understand this, or kind of get a really practical look at what this might, what this collective impact approach looks like, we're going to take a look at a video clip from an initiative called Shape Up Somerville that focused on childhood obesity. And they had made some tremendous gains in this area, and so we wanted to kind of contextualize this or really bring this down to earth by showing you this video.
Back in 2001, the children in Somerville, like many communities around the country, were presenting with overweight and obesity at higher rates than we would expect. Complex problems like childhood obesity really require complex solutions, and using the methodology and model of collective impact is extremely important. You really need people working together in deliberate ways. You can't just bring a group of people to the table and expect magic to happen. Shape Up Somerville was a grant to Tufts University to work in partnership with the community, a multi-level, multi-factor intervention that was designed to bring systems within the community together to try to address childhood obesity.
Shape Up Somerville is the backbone support for creating a healthy community. So we are really a convener bringing all these partners together. We have this common agenda to build and sustain a healthy community. We did various interventions from morning till night that affected the children to increase their access to physical activity and healthy eating.
There were many mutually reinforcing activities. We made sure that all the different systems and organizations that were involved saw the benefit for them as well. So we didn't ask people to just do the work of obesity prevention without benefiting within their own organization.
Through continuous communication, we use multiple sources of communication, including social media.
There were community newsletters, there were parent newsletters. We were always at meetings updating the community and the stakeholders about what we were doing. Over the course of one school year, we were preventing undesirable weight gain by about a pound, and we continued that over 2 school years. We also saw behavioral changes like a decrease in sugar-sweetened beverages, a decrease in screen time, and an increase in participation in physical activities, sports, and recreational programs. Shared measurement required a lot of different people to come together. So at every level, we had an evaluation going on that collectively showed we were able to transform the community. We went out to take an entire community with multiple systems and levels and bring everyone together around a common goal. And I'm thrilled that the community has sustained the activities and in fact expanded them significantly.
We recently produced a BMI report that was over 10 years of data. It showed in 2010 through 2011, when we looked at kindergarten through 7th graders, that the proportion of obese students decreased significantly. We used the data to really guide the direction of Shape Up Somerville and the various interventions we're doing in the community. There has been a culture change in Somerville around creating and sustaining a healthy community. That has included things like 30 miles of bike lanes and bike sharrows that have been added under Mayor Curtatone. It also includes adding 17 renovated and redesigned parks. Shape Up Somerville isn't really a program, it's more of a strategy where partners in multiple sectors, so education, healthcare, the business sector, nonprofits and community-based organizations come together through this common vision or mission that we have to create a healthy community. Our initiatives include the Shape Up approved Eat Well restaurant program. We have a Safe Routes to School program. And we also have a mobile farmers market where we sell produce at wholesale prices at 2 housing developments and a low-income senior center.
Shape Up Somerville and Groundwork Somerville are partners with the Green Team in bringing fresh food to low-income populations in Somerville. The Green Team program is a youth jobs program, and we focus on public speaking, leadership qualities, group facilitation, and learning how to grow, harvest, and sell the produce that we grow. The kids plan out the garden beds and seed everything and harvest it and sell it at the mobile market.
We track the sales week to week and then look at that over time. We've seen a dramatic increase, showing us that they're eating more fruits and vegetables as a result of the market. Shape Up Somerville has changed dramatically from the beginning. We're such a big part of the community. Partnerships evolve over time, so it takes a long time to build relationships and build that trust amongst partners. The success of Shape Up Somerville revolves around collective impact. We're very proud of the results that we've achieved, their success that we've shown, and we want that to continue.
All right, so hopefully that video provided you with a sort of small glimpse of what what collective impact looks like when it's actually done in a community. So the exciting part about collective impact, which is part of the reason why it's kind of taken our communities by storm, is that we find that when people do collective impact right, meaning they actually agree on that common vision and they're able to work together, we found that it has an extremely big impact. So this is a list of just some of the studies we've found that have used this collective impact model, and they've been able to make some very significant changes in short periods of time. So for example, the Strive initiative in the Cincinnati Public Schools has 71% of their fourth graders reading on grade level. And this is despite the fact that almost 75% of their students are below the poverty line. And they managed to achieve a 20% increase in fourth grade reading level in only 4 years. Similarly, a kindergarten readiness initiative in Baltimore, we saw increased kindergarten readiness from 27% to 57% in only 4 years. And lastly, the E3 Alliance in Central Texas decreased the number of struggling readers in third grade by 21% in only 1 year. So the most exciting part about collective impact that we find is that it seems like when you do it right, when you organize it right, it seems to have an extremely large impact in a really short period of time. So what does it look like if we were actually to do collective impact here in Monterey County? So I'm going to take just a few minutes and walk through some slides to show you what the structure is that we've kind of laid out to start doing this work. If you look at this slide, you can see with our collective impact structure, we want to focus on multiple levels. So we've seen here we want to have some county level impacts, so thinking about policy and advocacy for early childhood, because we know if we really want to see significant movement on those indicators we've laid out, we need to change policies. All right, there has been a tremendous cuts in early childhood at the federal level, cutting back, subsidized child care slots. And if we want to start to build back some of this ground, we need to impact policy. We also know that we're going to have some regional impacts, so some regional coordination of activities. And then lastly, we're going to have some communities that we decide, okay, these are the places where we really want to focus a lot of our efforts. Because if you noticed in the slide before, the question of scale, right? So what is the geographic area you start to really focus on is very important. Next slide. So in order to do that, what we've done is, with the Early Childhood Development Initiative, is we did an analysis of a lot of different early childhood development indicators. And we found that obviously if you look at Monterey County, some areas are well off in terms of early childhood, and other areas need a little bit more help. So the areas in dark blue that you see here are the areas that we've realized really need some intensive support or some intensive focus. So these darker areas are areas that we'll be initially focusing on to think about, okay, well, this is a community that we really want to focus resources on and really want to kind of start working with early on. And then, next slide. If you also look inside of if you look in your folders, each of you can kind of take a glimpse at what the early childhood indicators look like in your community. So inside of your folders, you'll see a list of what our early...
That's the facilitators are handing.
Oh, the facilitators. The facilitators will hand out your early childhood indicators for each one of your communities, so you can get a glimpse at what early childhood looks like in each one of your communities. So as you're looking at the indicators from each of your individual communities, even if the community that you're working in is not in that darker blue area, or that community that we thought, okay, this is a place that we really need to focus resources initially, there are so many ways to get involved with early childhood at the policy level, at the regional level, and at the local community level. So really we want every single person in the room to realize that they play an important role in this, regardless of whether, no matter what community you come from. And then lastly, we know that shifting our mind frame right and shifting towards this collective impact approach, it's going to be a very messy process as all changes. So we'll expect a lot of speed bumps in the road. But given that, we still want to just kind of continue to move forward. So we're going to transition to have Marcy. You're coming out? Marcy Castro is going to talk a little bit about some of the speed bumps we might expect and some of the challenges we might come across as we all start to sort of collectively shift our mind frame to move towards this collective impact approach.
My name is Marcy Castro. I have to use that too. Yeah. And I'm from social services. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the backbone. I think we skipped a little bit over that. To let you know that the Children's Council and First Five and the Health Department are going to be working with each community to make sure that that continuous communication and convening meetings happens. So after this meeting, there will be another meeting to dig deeper into some of the issues that we're going to discuss here in just a few minutes. So I wanted to really make sure that was happening. In your packet, or maybe your table facilitators have these, we've got 4 questions for you to discuss at your table. We want you to take a look at what you think the benefit of collective impact approaches is going to be for your community, how you might be able to build a commitment for this kind of work. Think about what the challenges might be in your community and ways you might overcome them. And then lastly, we'll ask you to discuss at your table what role you see yourself playing, who else needs to be at the table with us to discuss this as we delve deeper in the next meetings. And we'll give you time later on to put post-it notes about where you see yourself in the process on the indicators that are posted throughout the room. So we'll take about 20 minutes to discuss these questions. Table facilitators will be taking notes, and then at the end we'll do a quick report out and talk about next steps. Okay. What I'm going to do now is get us moving a little bit, like the video, and give you an opportunity to share with the rest of the room what you've been talking about. So what we're going to do is go through the questions one by one, but what I'll ask is for someone to volunteer an answer from the first question. And if your table had a similar discussion to what they're talking about, we want you to stand up so we can see how many people in the room were sharing those same ideas. And we'll see who's standing, and if anyone is sitting down, we'll ask what they were talking about. And if you hear just similar discussion that was happening at your table, we'll ask you to stand up, and we'll ask you to remain standing until everyone in the room is standing up for each of the questions. Okay? Sound good? Who would like to start and share an answer to one of the first questions that we had at the table?
Oh, okay. That this process asks individuals to identify what they can contribute to the effort, as opposed to the sort of the effort saying, we need you to do this and you to do this. And so the individuals are identifying what they bring to the table.
Excellent. Anyone else talk about individuals or identifying what they bring to the table instead of the other way around, the way we usually do it. Okay, someone else in the back. Please come up here though. Oh yes, excellent. Stand up. Please stay standing up. It's good for you. Perfect.
We talked about school and the importance of creating community within school in the individual classrooms. But when parents don't have what they need to get the job done, when they have economic stressors, when they're losing their homes in foreclosure, this creates a stressful environment for children. The parents don't have time to read to their children, don't have time for the leisure activities because they're trying multiple jobs. So as far as a multi-pronged approach is really critical for all the sectors to get on board. For instance, the city of Salinas tried to do an initiative where they were planning to eminent domain all the mortgages that were underwater. And the real estate industry balked at this. I don't know what the status of that is, but that would have been wonderful for residents in Salinas because they would have had pressure off of them. Mm-hmm. And so it does take a multi-pronged approach to create an environment where the families, which should be our primary educational forums, are able to provide for their children what they need. So, and I also feel that being involved in our cities and county government, there are 3 valuable minutes that you have with most city council meetings and board of supervisors meetings where you can talk about community concerns. A lot of those meetings are televised. So getting information out to the public about programs like this, initiatives that are going on. How about if we had a big community-wide barbecue and got to know our neighbors? I mean, all kinds of things that can be promoted on an individual basis at those meetings. Those 3 minutes are very valuable, and those meetings go out and are often repeated on TV. So I just encourage people from that standpoint to get involved and create more consensus.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you. Anyone else talk about the importance of getting all sectors involved? Stand up. Perfect. Oh my goodness, it looks like everyone's standing up. Is there anyone sitting down that I don't see that has a response that we haven't talked about yet? All up. All right, great. You can all sit down. We're going to talk about number 2, how can we build a commitment for this work? What were some of the ideas? Yes, please come up.
One of the things that was talked about at our table is the importance of bringing frontline workers to the table to share their experience and to help guide the process. So,
perfect. Frontline workers at the table. Yay. What about this table? Yeah, come on up.
We talked about showing how this would benefit the rest of the community, the business sector, being able to promote the fact that it would help the economy both in a short term and a long term, of really being able to promote the benefits of that, right? We talked about that.
Excellent. Stand up. And you talked about making sure that the business community is aware of the importance of early childhood education. All right. I see a few people sitting down. Any other comments you want to share that you haven't heard so far? Number 2. Seeing no volunteers and short time. I'm going to move to number 3. You can sit down. I'm talking about challenges besides parking of different, what would be the challenges of different sectors and how can we overcome them? Is there someone who would like to share the discussion about the challenges and how we overcome them? Super loud, but it won't be on the recording.
We talked about buy-in a little bit, that seems to be a little bit of some of the difficulty both between time buy-in and parents being able to make a connection.
Time buy-in and parents being able to participate, make a connection. Excellent. Anybody talk about shared data and the challenges around shared data, sharing data? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I could make a comment. We did talk about the need to have measures beyond third grade reading level, because when we're working with 3-year-olds, it's still a long time to get there. How can we measure success on a kind of the pieces of the puzzle that we're assembling, so as each person does their part, they feel that they're contributing to the whole that gets us to where we want.
That's fantastic. And Francine is going to talk to you a little bit more about a Cradle to Career initiative that's going to address exactly those issues. Anyone else want to share challenges or ways to overcome them? Okay, I'll have you sit down and we'll move on to number 4. And then Francine will come up and talk to you a little bit about what role you see yourself playing in this process and what indicators you will work on for change. We'll have some people share. What role do you see yourself playing in this process, Colleen?
Great. So something that our table talked a lot about was getting other people on board. We said the ambassadors for the initiative. So one person said they need to get their board of directors to really understand the importance of early childhood. But it doesn't start at kindergarten, it doesn't start at 3rd grade, it starts at birth or prenatally. And then someone else talked about the importance of sharing that with parents and really helping parents understand why we're doing this work and helping change the narrative of how parents are interacting with service providers.
Thank you so much. And at your table, the facilitators have a sheet of paper that they will ask to pass around and have you write who else should be at this meeting, and we'll use that in our next steps. Okay, thank you guys.
So the ECDI, the Early Childhood Initiative backbone, is the gas and the glue for this, and y'all are the cars. So if after having come to this initial meeting there is some interest in moving this forward in the communities in which you work in, what we will do is to help to support in terms of providing technical assistance, training, evaluation, and communication to support efforts at a local level. Now, one of the things that we talked about earlier on was that when we looked at the indicators, when Ashley was speaking, we looked at the indicators of where there's most need in the county, looking at available child care, at prenatal care availability and access, looking at poverty, those kinds of indicators. The communities that were identified as priority areas for us to focus on initially were the ones in dark blue. Okay, and so in terms of a lot of the people in this room, you'll see that Seaside is in dark blue. Other communities in this room are not in dark blue. What does that mean? That does not mean that we don't want to work with you. It does not mean that we don't want to support the work in your communities. What it means is that we will focus in the communities in light blue in more of a policy advocacy level, and that if there is desire to really work and develop something at a community level, say in Pacific Grove or Monterey or what have you, we'll still help to provide technical assistance where we can. But where we need to provide the initial first opportunities to go really deep, to go in doing asset mapping, to go in with really hands-on community extra TA and support, are those areas in dark blue. But we do not want to squash any type of initiative. So if there are people in this room who are red hot fire ready to go, there's no way we're going to say no. We'll figure out a way to help support you. Okay? So as we mentioned, we're going to be working at a policy countywide level where we want everyone in this room to see themselves working. There is so much going on right now with the president talking about early learning, with these bills on school readiness that are being introduced in the Senate, the Democrats in the Senate, and it's a bipartisan support now to have some type of transitional kinder for children and throughout the state of California. We also need to be looking at the 0 to 3 because we know that's when the brain grows the fastest. There's a plethora of policy level type work that needs to happen in our county, and we could use all of your support to help make that happen. There'll continue to be regional convenings and discussions where folks who are interested in continuing to work on this will get together and share learnings across the county. And then those local efforts that I talked about, where we're really going to go deep into some communities that have been identified as most in need, and then those who are also interested in developing their initiatives, providing some technical assistance and support in that way. Marcy mentioned how many of the Cradle to Career initiative. How many of you have heard about Cradle to Career? Raise your hands. Okay, that's almost a third of the 3/4 of the room. So the Cradle to the Career Initiative is something that is being brought, CSUMB is spearheading that, and it's looking at the STRIVE approach, which is basically the also collective impact model. And what it is looking at prenatal all the way through to college or career. And we've been working closely with them, and ECDI will be that 0 to 3rd grade pathway of the Cradle to Career Initiative. So it's all in alignment and coordinated. So if you hear about Cradle to Career, ECDI is part of that, okay? And unfortunately, I think Dr. Julio, yeah, his car was about to be towed, and he's here from CSUMB, and we're so excited to have them with us and part of this process. Okay, so for those of you that may be kind of type A personalities like myself and are saying, so all right, what are the next steps and what's the timeline and how is this all working? So what we're doing right now is designing the policy and advocacy network and having these community meetings. There's been one in each of the regions of the county, South County, North County, Salinas, and now here in the peninsula. We're going to continue to have meetings to now go deeper into these processes to ensure that if people are interested in working at a community level on identifying goals and using a collective impact approach, there's an opportunity to do that. Through the spring, summer, and fall, we're going to be implementing the Policy and Advocacy Network and then conducting some asset mappings in local communities that have identified themselves as being ready and interested in receiving support. And then in the fall, we'll be fully implementing both the local plans that have been developed as well as the Policy and Advocacy Network. So we have to build this together if it's going to work and we're going to move forward. So this is the first meeting, which was just a general introduction to what collective impact is, what the Early Childhood Development Initiative is. The second meeting will go deeper into outcomes where you would say, okay, for our community, what is it we feel like we really need to focus on? Is it 3rd grade reading? Is it something else? Is it social emotional development? Because that has a lot of things encompassed in it, right? And there'd be a lot of different mutually reinforcing activities that would occur with that. Identifying the barriers to collective impact. Also some possible solutions. You know, who's not here who really needs to be here? What are the barriers that are preventing them from being here? Looking at developing an assessment process for community readiness. This is not an easy process, as you heard, especially when it gets to the evaluation stuff. People agreeing to share information and systems can be a huge barrier. So in terms of looking at who's really ready to be the first group of communities, we would love to have this be something that would happen countywide eventually, right? What we know is we don't have the capacity to start out saying, okay, we're going to work in 15 communities throughout the county. We have to look at who's really ready to jump into this, who's got champions, who's got the right people at the table, who's really ready to take this on. And then, you know, over the years, we'll add on more communities until, you know, the entire county is, everybody who wants to be is part of this process. And then also looking at more of the role for the ECDI backbone in this process. Meeting 3, we'll look more into the readiness assessment and go through a process of selecting communities, talking some more about the Policy and Advocacy Network, and establishing a framework for cross-community, cross-collaboration and communication across communities that want to participate in this effort. We're trying to stagger the meetings so that they're about a month apart in each community, in each region. And so in terms of our next process, and I'll tell you the date for this next meeting. We may have to look at a different location given the parking and all of that good stuff. But our next step is for you to spend about 7 minutes, don't you guys like my numbers, talking about who's missing from your communities. Now I know it's a little hard because some tables are separated a little bit in terms of seasides at a couple tables and so forth. But when you look around the room, what kind of categories of people or individual people are missing right now to make this work. And spend a little bit of time brainstorming and give specific names. And if you're willing to contact those people to come to the next meeting, let your table facilitator know. You know, write that on the sheet. There's a sheet that we have for who's missing. And the categories, again, of potential partners that we would love to have be part of this process include philanthropy, education, early childhood education, service providers and groups, parents, business, community-based organizations, faith-based groups, and local government, of course. So let's spend the 7 minutes going ahead and doing that, and then we'll close out the meeting. So also in your packets, you have a sheet called What You Can Do Now. And in the on the What You Can Do Now sheet, if I can get it here, is a list of things that can happen in local, state, and national impact. First and foremost is making sure we have an email for you where you can receive constant contact email that won't be blacklisted or you'll get it. Inviting people to come to the next meeting, spreading the word. If you need flyers, we have those more flyers of early childhood impact. You can, the email for Karen, Karen, can you raise your hand? Karen Gorman is one of our admin support staff. You can email her and she'll send you some. And then we also have posted the local data sheets on the Monterey County Children's Council website, which is MCC, what is it, Ashley? MCCMCchildren.org. MCchildren.org. And then there's some websites you can join to keep informed about what's happening at the state and national level. Before we close this out, are there any questions that people have about the process or what we're doing or why we're doing it, or if you really want to come back again? Any questions? Yes.
I just had a comment actually. Our group talked about having a one-stop shop technology place for this group where we can post documents and kind of like a
Google Docs or Google Groups. Yeah.
So I guess my question is that
Something that's possible.
There's a possibility to have.
Sure, that's a great idea for communication, for maybe whether or not we can have a place to post things like a blog or what have you so that people can have easy access to it. We do right now have the website for the Monterey County Children's Council, but in terms of being able to be more interactive, we can definitely look at something like that. That's a great suggestion. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so was another question back there, Colleen. Well, I think Jody Hansen, thank you for the segue. Jody Hansen, who is the president and CEO of the Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce and a member of the Children's Council, is going to tell you right now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you again for being here. And I want to thank Francine and First Five for leading the Early Childhood Development Initiative. This is such a big deal. And I appreciate all of you being here today to share this kind of kickoff for the initiative. At this point, I want to tell you why this is important to business people. And a lot of times we don't think of business being involved in education, but our chamber is very involved in education. We have an extremely active education committee. We work a lot with internships right now. And one of the things we're learning is that even at an internship level coming from junior college, our kids aren't prepared. They're not prepared for work. And that means they don't have that reading ability that they need. They don't have the basic math skills that they need to have a job. And I think that's what we're here about today. It's about our future. It's about our children and our grandchildren. And the fact that a lot of them can't even stay in this area to find a job. There aren't jobs here. I have employers telling me they need skilled workers and they have to go outside our area because our kids here aren't ready for work. This is our problem at hand, and I think the Early Childhood Development Initiative is a great step in the right direction, and the collective impact is the way to go. We have been working in silos for a long time. It's time to get together on a lot of different levels as a community. What we want for our children is really, we want to have them inspired that they can have a good job, a good paying job, that they can be challenged, that they basically, can find their talents, that they can make money and have a paycheck that puts a solid roof over their heads, food on their table, a safe car to drive. These are all challenges that young people today have. And they want to have families too. So we need to set the table here. We need to make this right for them. And for business, it's really important because we're competing in a very competitive global marketplace now. And we need the skilled workers. So all together we can work on this, and I think we're going to be a lot better place in the next 5, 10, 20 years. And the time is now to work together on that. We do have some books on the table, and I hope you will either take them home to a family, give them to a family, or take them home to your children and read to your children. It's really important that we start here today on this initiative. It's also important that that you think about this initiative as we go forward. We have a gift for you today, which is a wonderful mouse pad coaster, and it is a puzzle. And I know Mayor Camp was here from Pacific Road today, and he mentioned the puzzle that we're working on right now. And so this, please take this home with you. It has a wonderful saying on it. It says, "When we dream alone, it is just a dream. When we dream together, it is the beginning of a new reality." Thank you all for being here, taking time out of your busy schedules. We want to thank you and hope that you will be back to our next meetings. That's part of our next steps. So thank you again, Francine, and thank you for joining us this morning. And your involvement is so important to us in the ECDI effort. We couldn't do it without you, and the children couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jody, for that closing remark. And I also, on your way out, I have one last thing to ask you to do, which is you see on the walls the names of different cities and the 6 indicators. On your tables, there are some Post-it notes. If you could please write your name and your organization on those Post-it notes and put them where you see yourself working in this initiative as it moves forward, to help us to plan the next meetings, to see where the holes are. We would really appreciate your support in that way. And thank you so much for coming. Our next meeting is going to be on Wednesday, March 18th. We'll look at whether or not this place works or not in terms of the parking. And I know some people had some problem with the time. Does 8:30 work better for folks? Raise your hands if 8:30 is a better starting time. Okay, so we'll start at 8:30 on March 18th, and we'll keep you informed as to the location. Please make sure we have your email address. Thank you so much again for your time and attention today.